We're here on Stribling's New York, and we are sponsored by MC Home Loans. Melissa Cohn is the principal there, and when you call 844-667-7300, you actually reach Melissa Cohn, MELISSACOHN.mortgage, MORTGAGE. I love that website. But call her, too, because Melissa's old school. You can go to her website, but you can call her at 844-667-7300. We are here on WOR AM Radio, 710 on your digital dial, iHeartMedia. Our producer is Tony Simone, and you can reach Tony at tsimone@stribling.com, TSIMONE @stribling.com, STRIBLING, or Tony's website, TonySimone.com. Google him. He's an interesting guy. He's got a fascinating background. He's worked in politics, and he is not only the producer of this show, but a top real estate broker and incredibly knowledgeable. He has a blog. You can learn a lot from him. Tony has just introduced me to our next two guests, Aidan Connelly and Pauline Turley, and they are from the Irish Arts Center. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm well. So I was mentioning in the green room with you earlier how I grew up in an Irish neighborhood, being the lone Jewish family, and we were welcomed with open arms in Staten Island, New York. And my parents have always loved everything Irish. And instead of going to Israel, they used to go to Ireland quite frequently. In fact, somehow, I think it was their 50th anniversary. It was a big seminal anniversary. They went back to Ireland. They found the only Jewish mayor in a big town in Ireland, and he remarried them.
That's so funny.
That was a big, big thing for them.
Well, you know, that's the place. The thing about New York is so great. It's just a place for all these different cultures to come together and all the wonderful surprises we can share with each other. As an Irish kid, I'm an Irish-American kid growing up in the Northeast here. I never knew that Dublin had a Jewish Lord Mayor, Robert Briscoe.
Right.
I didn't learn that.
It was Dublin, yes.
Yeah, it was Dublin. And I didn't know that until I came to New York City, you know, growing up in an Irish-American household. And so, you know, New York just brings us all together in a wonderful way culturally.
Yeah, the first mayor of Dublin.
The first mayor of Dublin, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your organization, what you do, what your mission is.
Sure. So we are, we're a multidisciplinary cultural center. What that means is that we cover the gamut of culture: live music, theater, literature and humanities, talks, film, and then we have a whole host of classes in traditional Irish culture and all sorts of other interesting topics. And so we have a 3-story tenement on the west side of Manhattan, 51st Street between 10th and 11th. We're in the process of developing a new facility that will only enhance our programming and give us a permanent home, which for those of your listeners who have been to the Irish Arts Center know we are in serious need of, much as we love our current venue. And our job is to just bring the dynamism and incredibly high quality of Irish cultural programming to New Yorkers of all backgrounds.
So what are some of the educational programs that you have that besides Irish folk dancing? Because I can hardly walk anymore, but I would like to learn more otherwise.
Well, you absolutely can. We have actually over 40 classes a week between the Irish language, history, music and dance programs. So if you're, want to learn the banjo to the bagpipes and also the Irish language.
Or the boron.
Or the boron, yes, the drum.
All the bee instruments.
We've been very much part of the Hell's Kitchen community since the early 70s. Actually, that's when we started out in 74 in Hell's Kitchen. And so really weekly since then, we've been teaching Irish culture to New Yorkers of all background. One of the things I love about the diversity, we had a Russian teaching the Irish language for over 30 years, this wonderful man who's sadly not with us anymore. He passed on, but he taught, his name was Alexei Kondraviec. He was from Breton, but he lived on the Aran Islands and taught Irish to New Yorkers for 27 years at the Irish Arts Center, as well as Bill Ox.
Bill Ox, an Ashkenazi Jew who's been one of the great tin whistle experts all over the world, is not from Ireland. So, yeah.
What is a tin whistle?
It's like a penny whistle, I guess, that you call here. So it's just a little tin pipe. Very simple. It's much easier to play than the cello.
Because
you can just pull it
let's
out
back
of
up
the
a
pocket.
second.
Or the
Too. Are the
accordion.
bagpipes an Irish instrument, Scottish, both? Because I'm going to digress a little bit because I love drinking so much. But I go to an Irish pub all the time on the Upper East Side called the Kinsale Tavern.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, everybody there is from Ireland. They all have brogues. Whenever you leave, they go, "Thank you, Rob, and God bless. Good night."
That's
They
not
always
bad.
give you a good God bless before you
Yeah.
go. But why do all the Irish bars have unbelievable selections of scotch? 'Cause there are no Scottish restaurants. Or,
Well, I think it's probably going back to the Celtic tradition, but Ireland I'm from actually the north of Ireland, and but you can see Scotland on a sunny day. There's actually only an hour crossing between Belfast or from Northern Ireland to Scotland, so there was huge migration. In fact, you'd find pockets of Northern Ireland that sound more Scottish than the Scots themselves.
so then it's like we can see New Jersey from here. Well,
exactly,
even though we don't want to rush over there. If they made good scotch, we would
you might be
we would
tempted.
make it. Well, we go to football games over there, and we still call them the New York Giants.
That's right. That's right.
So, so back to my bagpipe question.
They're actually a Scottish war instrument, which we have a slightly different version in the Irish culture called the uilleann pipes, which starts with a U, as you do. So that would be kind of more naturally known as an Irish instrument, but it's kind of been taking on very much, when you walk, obviously, on St. Patrick's Day, there's a lot of pipes on the avenue. They're a louder instrument, I think, for more group play. So they've been adopted.
Oh no! And now I'm going to get really tangential on you, but I want to plug my two favorite New York Irishmen, Colin Quinn, who I recently did an article about his show called New York Story. We hope to have him as a guest on the show. I just think it's one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. It's directed by Jerry Seinfeld. I think it is still at the Cherry Lane Theater.
Yeah, and
Have you
everybody
seen
should go see it. In fact, and Pauline, well, we both know Colin, and Pauline has a long history with Colin. But actually, the first time I ever heard of the Irish Arts Center or ever attended the Irish Arts Center, I think it was in the early 90s. And I just wandered over as the guest of somebody. And it was one of those situations where it's like, you go to the Irish Arts Center the first time, and you're like, okay, I got off the subway at 8th Avenue, so it must not be too far from here. And then you get to 9th Avenue, and then you get to 10th Avenue, you get to 11th Avenue. It's actually not too far a trip. But walking in to this sort of, crumbling, restored garage, and there was Colin Quinn doing his one-man show. It was one of my seminal introductory experiences to New York City.
How long ago was this?
That was, I want to say it was 94,
Yeah.
maybe 94, 95. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's fine. Amazing Grace, is that what it was?
I can't remember the title.
Yeah.
All I remembered was that it was him. And at that point, had he already been on Saturday Night Live? Or maybe he was pre-Saturday Night Live? But it was fantastic. And it was, again, a revelation. Of course, Colin has performed at the Arts Center many times in between.
That's interesting to know. I wrote an article for him, Huffington Post. If you go to my website, robtaub.com, and click on the Huffington logo, I think it's called In Like Quinn, or so. I've written so many articles now. I'm having a senior moment, but it's a really interesting show, and I said that he talks like a longshoreman, but has an unbelievable knowledge of New York, and he's very intellectual. It's kind of like another great Irish writer, Pete Hamill.
Oh,
He
yeah.
wrote a
love
great
Pete.
book called
Yeah.
A Drinking Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so
Essential reading.
The other thing about growing up in an Irish neighborhood, and Hamill wrote about this, is the assimilation of all different people and cultures coming together.
Yeah. Hamill actually has a great quote that he gave at City Hall, not this St. Patrick's Day, but the previous St. Patrick's Day. And Mayor de Blasio brought Pete in, and a beautiful tribute to Pete that morning. And Pete said, "New York City is the capital of people who are not like you," which is just a classic, wonderful way to think about all the wonderful diversity and difference that we have here in New York City.
The big thing for him was food, too. How he came to love Italians is because his mother had to leave him with the next-door neighbors. I think it was the Noceras. And he said, "I didn't know that dinner was supposed to be this fabulous, wonderful thing. It tasted so good."
Yeah. Well, I'm one of 7, Rob. So growing up, my mother was not, it was more feeding than any kind of flair. So I've had that same experience when I came to New York. I didn't know food could taste that good. I grew up about an hour south of Belfast, which actually is where Pete Hamill's family, his dad's from Belfast. But I kind of had that similar experience. It was like, oh, this is what food's supposed to taste like.
Yeah, I didn't know growing up. My parents are from Ireland, and growing up in Connecticut, I didn't realize that you were actually allowed to eat vegetables anything other than cooked for 5 hours in in a boiling pot.
Yeah, they're supposed to crumble when you pick
Yeah.
them up and just fall apart into mush.
Disintegrated vegetables. I think that's the official name for the dish.
Now that we're on a roll about Irish, I know well-known Irishmen, Irish people. We have to be politically correct here. Liam Neeson is another one. It seems that so many people from your what we're calling you a culture have a big impact in New York City. I'm involved with the Roundabout Theater, and as is he, and he really plays a big part in New York City culture.
He really does. And in fact, Liam is an honorary chairman of our organization and has been, and Pauline and Liam actually go way back. And he's just been an extraordinary supporter of our effort to develop a new facility, raising money, turning up at things, and is just a great person. He's just a lovely, humble, beautiful human being.
Yeah, and just when you mentioned the Roundabout, our other honorary chair is Gabriel Byrne, and Gabriel's going to be coming up in the Roundabout's production of Long Day's Journey into Night with Jessica Lange.
I saw him also do another O'Neill play,
The Moon
Touch
for
of the
Miss
Poet.
Touch of the Poet, not too long ago.
Yeah.
And The Moon for Misbegotten.
Featuring Moon for the Misbegotten. But Touch of the Poet was the one that featured David Power also on the pipes. Back to the
Uilleann Pipes.
It all comes back to the Uilleann Pipes.
Yep.
But interestingly, you mentioned the Roundabout, Rob, because isn't the Roundabout where Liam and Natasha met?
Yes.
Doing Anna
Yep.
Christie.
That is correct.
Right? And of course, Natasha, beautiful, late, great actress.
Gabriel Byrne is a great guy. In fact, he and I were in a movie together, and in the same scene, although I play a radio comedian in the scene, so I was recorded after the movie was shot, but you hear my voice coming out of the radio in Miller's Crossing while he's in the room.
What a fabulous movie.
Incredible.
Here's what a great guy he is. I was at a restaurant we're going to plug everything. I was at Trattoria dell'Arte, which is not too far from where you guys are located, and that's on 57th and 7th, and this is many years ago, and I was waiting to eat. I was alone, and so was he, and we were looking for a room at the counter, and I said, I'm in a movie with you, and he said, oh, which one? I go, Miller's Crossing. I can't do his brogue to save my life. And so we sat down and had lunch together, and he was a great guy. Another person, impactful.
Yeah.
Well, he's really terrific, especially, behind the scenes, and Gabriel actually comes to, as does Liam, but Gabriel's based here in New York, so he comes to a lot of theatre. He's so supportive of other artists. There's a great young writer, Kevin Barry. I think 1 week in November, Gabriel was in the centre 3 times that week. So, and he really genuinely, it means a lot to the other artists to have that level of support, and he's just they're both very, very generous with their time.
Incredibly generous. And Gabriel's also just one of those actors who is so respected not only for his talent, but also his choices. I think if you look at the body of work that Gabriel has developed over his career, it's really, really astonishing. And actually, you go back to Miller's Crossing, which I took a look at again maybe a year ago, and it just holds up beautifully. Obviously, a great tribute to the Coen brothers as well, but just a really great artist.
My other grandfather, you had introduced me to Eugene O'Neill when I was a kid, and all my grandparents were Russian immigrants and spoke with the unintelligible accents. And there's a character of Hugo in not in Long Day's Journey, in Iceman, and he's always pontificating about socialism, and he's a Jewish character, and I thought Eugene O'Neill was Jewish because he wrote about my grandfather so beautifully.
That is so funny. That is so funny.
So tell us where we can find you on the web, and are you on Twitter? Give us some more information.
You can find us at www.irishartscenter.org. You can find us on Twitter at Irish Arts Center, Facebook, Instagram, all your favorites. Our marketing people will no doubt give me a hard time for missing something. But also upcoming at the Arts Center, we're very proud to welcome back this season our incredible series with Paul Muldoon, the wonderful Pulitzer Prize-winning poet, poetry editor of The New Yorker, who does a monthly series called Muldoon's Picnic. And Paul, who's not only a world-class poet, is also a songwriter and lyricist. And so he's with his house band, Rogue Oliphant. And they'll be in on Monday, February 8th at 7:30 with special guests Laurie Anderson, Glenn Patterson, Miracles of Modern Science, and none other than Salman Rushdie. So,
well, Monday, February 8th is my birthday, so I'm going to try to be there.
Come be our guest. We'll bring the cake.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us on Stribling's New York. We'll have to have you both back, and I'm really interested in learning more about the Irish Arts Center.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Thanks,
Great
Rob.
to be here.
That was really enjoyable talking to Aidan Connelly and Pauline Turley here on Stribling's New York. Please remember that we are sponsored by MC Home Loans, 844-667-7300. Call Melissa Cohn, MELISSACOHN.mortgage, MORTGAGE. You've been listening to WOR Radio iHeartMedia 710 on your digital dial. I am Rob Taub for Stribling's New York. Please join us every Sunday night from 11 to midnight or listen to our podcast on WOR710.com.